Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It depends on when you're listening, and welcome to The Solution. Nothing changes if we change nothing. And we are back after too long a break. How you doing, Chevar?
I'm cool. It's been a while. We've seen each other via Zoom, but not in the podcast world. But it's definitely been a while. And
Too long.
yeah. I almost forgot how to turn the microphone on. I forgot you
Oh, we
just
need to
plug
turn a mic on?
you just gotta plug it in apparently. It starts working.
You know, it's always our intent to record a weekly episode, but
Hmm.
we have been so busy, which is a blessing. I mean,
Absolutely.
it really excites me that we can do what we do and just be so inventive and creative and build coalitions and further prevention. It's just a wonderful thing.
How are you? How have you been?
I've been good. I'm enjoying the spring weather, even the rainy days. I love a spring rain. There's something just really peaceful and soothing about it,
Right.
you know.
No,
And
yeah, the rain I think would probably be rain and snow. I like seeing snow. I like playing in snow. If anyone knows me, I love the sleds and stuff. But rain, I like seeing rain from afar and
hmm
smelling the rain before and after.
yeah,
The scent of the rain, the dew on the grass and what have you. It's
the dew. Yes, it's just so beautiful too. You know, I just love the greenery.
no,
There's
absolutely.
something about that light plush green. When I lived in Tennessee, I've never seen colors like there in the spring. You know how we have our fall colors here in the Northeast. Down there, the springtime, it starts happening in February. It's
Wow.
insane. But the colors are like nothing I've ever seen before. The rolling hills, and um, it was nice. But, you know, the summers there are a little hot for me.
It happens. I mean, it's the South, so we're up northeast, so we get our weather changes every now. So we're about to have 6 days in a row 70. Well, that's what the weatherman. What the meteorologist said. 70 days. I'm sorry, 6 days of 70 and better consecutively. We'll see. We'll see. We'll definitely see. Unfortunately, I won't be here to enjoy that in the next few days. I'll be in Oswego, which is next to one of the Great Lakes, so it's cold up there.
Now, relatively speaking, you know, and where I live, it's not going to be 70s, and I'm kind of glad about that because
Mhm.
you know me, I'm in no rush for the
No,
heat.
absolutely. It's in Oswego. It's in the 40s right now. So, and it's going to be, I think, the high when I go up there this week is going to be like 40. I'm sorry, 51.
Oh,
I guess
really?
so. Yeah, it's pretty cold. And also
It's
the
chilly.
water, the wind from the water, blowing onto the shore. It's pretty cold up there. But it is what it is. I get to celebrate my daughter's graduation. And celebrate with her.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and hang out with her, spend some time with her. And I think she's going on when she comes back home. She's going on vacation, so I want to spend as much time with her. But she needed. She graduates, so go on vacation, enjoy your life, and have fun. And then come back. Dad and I, we have already planned out our brunch Sundays. So we already made plans to brunch it up either every Sunday or every other Sunday. So we'll see what happens.
That sounds great. You must be so proud of her.
Oh, very much so. I tell her all the time. I always tell her how proud I am of her. Like I just don't. I don't give empty compliments. Like, oh, you did a great job, because those compliments lose value. And
hmm
I'll say you're doing amazing, but I'll say why. I'll tell her she's my inspiration, but I'll tell her why. I'll make those statements valid. I make those statements mean something when I talk to my children. Like I just don't tell them that they're good because everyone's good. Everyone has good qualities,
Right.
Well, what's the meaning behind? Why do you say it? Why would you tell someone they're great at what they're doing or they're good at what they're doing? Because it's easy to tell someone what they're bad at, right? Like,
Right. Well, it is for some people.
but so, especially, I mean, and I'm thinking about the kind of work we do, especially in prevention, and where I grew up with people who use drugs, and the first thing people point out is the fact that they use drugs, and what can harm them, and what opposed to, how can we get you to a better space?
hmm
How can we put positivity in your life? But a lot of times I hear negativity being spewed out. And for me, like I hear that as an easier way to say it, because I think sometimes people, this is my opinion, people don't know how to push people into the positive light or know what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's easy to say you're an addict, you're this, you're that, you're a loser. Like, okay, I don't want to lose anymore. Right? This individual doesn't want to lose anymore. Let's help them win. You know, how do we help these people win?
Well, it comes back to the whole, prevention approach of building, protective factors. And I always like to cite the Search Institute's 40 developmental assets. To me, my whole perspective on prevention has always been, if you focus on the protective factors or the assets, the risk factors go down automatically. So yes, let's build the positive youth development. That's what they called it in my day. And it still means a lot to me. Show them the positive path, show them the positive light. Don't ignore the things that are not positive, but help them sort them through so that they can find that path. Give them more positive alternatives. As people who have run after school programs, both you and I have, been on that path. We know, when you give kids that alternative, when you provide after school programming during those hours at 3 to 6, the prime time for juvenile crime, those kids have something positive, and so many of them succeed. And when you put positive adults in their lives, it's even better. Absolutely. So we know the path. It's so simple, but so often, we don't get the support to take it. We do in what we work in, that's part of prevention. But we need more emphasis on that.
No, absolutely. Just talking to our colleagues and them, we have one of our members, Nanor, who grew up in the Middle East, and she's like asking questions, why don't you guys have that here? I'm like, well, right. Like we did at one point, and for whatever reason, those things aren't here, or they might be that it doesn't generate money, or because the data isn't there, because you can't quantify the kid smiling. The kid, that.
Right. It's very hard to measure prevention. It really is.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like I always say, I'd say there's no instant gratitude in this type of work. You normally get that gratification 5, 6, 7 years, and you talk about it all the time, Ronnie. Whether you see this young person who's now an adult, who has a beard or a child or different appearance, what have you, and they stop you and they say thank you. You have no clue who they are, but they remember what you've done for them. I've had young people say to me, "Remember that day you told me not to walk up that block?" There's that bell whenever I'm talking.
Can you finish your thought?
Like, remember you told me not to go up that block? Thank you. Because of you that day, I decided not to go that direction. And I'm here now. And I made a positive outcome in my life.
Yeah. I remember young people saying to me, I was at a party and somebody went to pass me, some weed, and I heard your voice saying, why do you use? What are the reasons behind it?
Right,
what, and hearing the refusal skills and thinking, do I want to do this? Right. Because I never tell anybody, no, you shouldn't. Right, you need to make your choices based on information, and hopefully you're going to make healthy, positive choices. When we show them how to do that, they have another option and we see another outcome. I'm not saying they're always going to make those choices, but we can provide those options.
I mean, the key thing, you said it, is a choice. Young people we give them choice. You give them options. The more options you give them, the more positive options. Whoever determines what positive is, but whatever self-expressive ways to get their point across, to experience new things in life with different things that they might not have experienced, whether at school or at home or their living conditions, or in inviting them in to meet new people. Like, I'm all for that, and it's kind of unfortunate I don't see as much as I would love to. I would like to, rather. I mean, I love the word love. That's why I said love. But I mean,
you're all about love.
Absolutely. In the hopes is that something comes back around, especially with the fact that we are in this pandemic, and watching the news and seeing that people are talking about how they want their children back in schools and back in activities and so forth. I'm like, whoa, slow down. Let's get through the pandemic first. But I understand why. You need that social interaction. you need those positive influences, because sometimes, you know, unfortunately, there's bad things. There are tons of bad things, and there's tons of good things with this pandemic. The good things, like I shared in the past, like I was able to connect with my family more, you know, frequently. You know, the bad things are for those of us who are living in domestic violence, or who are living alone, or, you know, don't have different outlooks to better situations. So, you know, but what I can say to those, I'm here. My email is there. If you don't know me, just get to know me. I'm Chevar. I'm willing to talk to every and anyone. We had a meeting recently, and I shared with Ronnie and the people we're meeting with. I want to do a call to action. I want to help people. You know, I want to use my time on this planet, on this earth, to be more productive, to be more to spread that positivity. Like I came up with a saying not too long ago that positivity is a prevention of negativity. You know, that's something that I want to live by. You know, I want to prevent that negativity. I want to keep that good one. You got to practice what you preach, man.
You've got to. Well, we have somebody at the door. So as always, you were in the middle of talking, but I'm going to admit them. All right. And our guest is here today. All right. We'll wait until she connects completely, but I know that she subscribes to a lot of what we're talking about too. You know, it's giving youth those positive alternatives. And now Beth is connected to audio. Hey, Beth.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be seen. Good morning.
Good morning. We were just talking about positivity and providing positive alternatives as a way to prevent negativity. But first, why don't you tell our viewers who you are and what you do?
Hi, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time you're actually viewing this. My name is Beth Covelli. I am the chairperson of the Queens Consortium on Substance Abuse and Alcoholism. We are one of the larger city substance abuse prevention, treatment, recovery groups, coalitions. We work with all those who are providers in the New York City area, as well as those who have vested interest in substance abuse prevention, treatment, and recovery, including consumers. I also own an agency called New York Counseling for Change, and we work with those who commit acts of violence. And on top of that, in my spare time, I have a private practice, and I do private therapy, home-based as well as office. And now telehealth because of the pandemic. That's a little bit about me.
Yeah, Beth's not too busy, actually. And that picture in back of her, I've seen in person. So I should add that Beth is one of my best friends in the world. And we have been partners in crime for many, many years. And we started out in prevention together.
Correct. Many moons ago. We won't say how many spins around the moon it was.
Only 3. Don't worry about it. It's only 3.
Yeah, with a 0 at the end of it.
Oh, no.
Hey, I'm the one who's old here, not you guys. We first really started working together in 1989, you know, as SAPIS counselors in the New York City public school system.
And for those who know, we were better known as Spark counselors because we worked in the high school system. So we were called Spark counselors. And it was probably the greatest experience that our students had and we had as professionals. It's a great experience.
Yes, and we were not allowed to sit next to each other at trainings and meetings. We just got along too well, but you know, we saw such incredible results. And you're still in touch with some of your kids, right?
I am still in touch with a lot of my kids who are now adults, and they have been able to create these wonderful lives because they learned very early on that if you don't change your direction, you'll wind up where you're going. And some of them didn't like where they were going. And some of them wanted to create better lives, and they did. And they're doing pretty well today. I'm blessed that they still keep in touch. The greatest honor I have when I walk down the street and I hear these words, "You'll miss." The fact that they still want to say hello to me is an honor.
I literally just said the same thing. Well, I didn't say you'll miss. I said the same thing. Like,
which would be okay, though.
It would be okay. It would be okay. They're like, Mr. Chevar. I'm like, I have no clue who these people are. Like, and then speaking to them, like, oh, I do remember you from X amount of years ago. You're now a full-grown adult. And they say thank you. And, you know, and those are the most important things. where like prior to coming to the PRC, like I would have my skepticism about continuing to work what I was doing prior as a program director. And then I would bump into a young person or a young adult and they would say, Mr. Chevar, thank you. And then I was like, I can't leave because I just affected this person's life who is now an adult, you know, but it means a lot hearing that. And can you talk about that when you hear the yo miss, what happens? Like what feelings do you get through your body?
Well, you started this conversation that you were talking about spreading positivity.
Mm-hmm.
That's the purest form of positivity, because you know that you made a difference somewhere. Because sometimes we don't see the fruits of our labor instantly, you know, because sometimes we plant the seeds and they take moments or years to ferment and grow. So that's the positivity to just demonstrate that, you know, our heart and our work flourished. And that's the greatest gift. And how does that make me feel? A smile from ear to ear, because we always wonder. And some of the people we work with come in our hearts and fill a bigger place. Mm-hmm. And some of them just stay in our souls and they're there. So it's always really nice to see when someone's doing well.
And we've actually seen some of the young people grow up, go to school and go into the field. And that's been amazing to see that. I see, or the children of some of our peers, and you know who I'm talking about, Beth. That's been incredible.
And part of our work through QCASA, which is the Queen's Consortium, we call QCASA for short, is we run a youth group. It's called Youth Empowerment Speaks. And a lot of the kids who come from the New York City schools, sometimes who are from their SAPIS counselors or SPARK counselors, they are part of this group. And now the next generation of leaders of our youth coalition are counselors who started out as students who are now leading the next generation to healthy choices. So you asked how I feel about it. It's awesome. It's just and that's called leaving a good footprint in this world. You know, I learned something really early on, you know, in someone's headstone, it doesn't matter the day you were born or the day you die. It's what you do at the time and the dash that matters. That dash is what defines that. So it's a nice feeling to see that there are lots of people whose worlds have changed. So how does that make me feel? Pretty cool and awesome. All right, really cool and awesome.
I'm writing down, you're giving us good titles for our podcast today. I just wrote down. Yeah, we like to take it out of the conversation. All right, so how is the pandemic? I mean, it's like old news now. We've been doing this for 14 months, but how has it changed what you've done over the past year?
So while we are coming to the light at the end of the tunnel, it's not over yet. Because we've had 14 months of isolation. We've had 14 months of professionals and people seeking service in the same boat. We've had, and I kind of explain it like the Titanic, and it also demonstrated the differences socioeconomically, racial diversity, as where your position was on the Titanic, but either we sank or we swam together. That's the only difference. And it has affected my work, all of our work, in a positive way with telemental health. We've taken a lot of barriers away to treatment. We've taken a lot of barriers of accessibility to whether it's 12-step meetings, it's smart recovery, it's their programs of support, friends, colleagues. So it's taken a lot of barriers away. And I'm glad that it looks like we're going to be keeping that going forward. But what it has done is it also has increased relapse, anxiety, stress, depression, and trauma, because all people had was a lot of time and a lot of time to think and reflect upon their lives and their losses. And, you know, for a long time there, you know, every day it was, you know, this many people died and this many people overdosed and it just triggered a lot of stuff. So while we're at the tail end of it, or at least we're seeing the light at the tunnel, there are still a lot of people who are learning to manage these really heavy duty emotions and get back on the track. So has it affected our work? Absolutely. But it's about just staying slow and steady with the course and trying to help as many people as we can. You know, that's the hardest part. You want to help everybody, but you can't. But that's how it's affected the work. I'm busier than ever. Most mental health professionals are busier than ever, because the good side of having people, whether it's peers, people in recovery, people in treatment, having accessibility via telemental health. The downside is most helping professionals, we forgot to learn how to turn it off. So we worked 7 days a week, 24 hours a day sometimes, because we didn't want to say, we can't talk right now, for fear that somebody really needed us and we pushed them away and something would happen. So it's just finding that balancing act between self-care and caring for the world.
Yeah, and you and I talk about that stuff a lot on a personal level. I mean, Beth knows that I have my boundaries that I have to remind myself to enforce. You know, even last night, she sent me a text, so I was watching TV and I'm like ready to start texting back. I stopped myself, even though, like, you know, one of my closest people in my life in the world is there. I'm like, no, I got to keep my boundaries. And I think that's part of self-care. To, like, you know, if you're having time with your family, you take that time. If I call you, you're not going to answer, hopefully. Sometimes I say to her, why are you answering? But
and the answer is because we just want to make sure everything is okay. And that's the key of it, is we just want to make sure everybody is okay.
Beth, you mentioned something that I talk about all the time about this pandemic, and like, I keep thinking about the other side of the pandemic when it's, so to speak, over. You know, and we're going to be dealing with an additional pandemic that we're dealing with now, which is mental health. And what is that going to look like on the other end? And Ronnie will tell you every minute, I'm like, dude, what is it going to like 2 years from now? What's the data going to like 2 years from now? But my question is, you know, you can talk about that also. But my question is, what do you have? Any advice you have for people who are dealing with or need some type of support? What could they do if you're able to do that?
The hardest thing to do is first acknowledge that there is a problem, and then the second thing is to reach out for help. The key of it is just acknowledging it. Again, one of the pros of this pandemic is not that it's been normalized, but it's been spoken about. So some of the stigma has come out of mental health and substance abuse issues. So it's not this, oh, I have depression or anxiety anymore. It's almost become cool to say I have a therapist, and which is great. But the downside is, because so many people have reached out for help, is a lot of people are hitting walls of, I'm sorry, I'm not accepting new clients. I'm sorry, I'm full. I'm sorry. You know, some of the mental health clinics, though, I have to give them kudos. Throughout the city, they've increased staff and they've increased availability, so wait lists are even less. So I am going to give kudos to where it belongs. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that people are now going to understand that it's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to say, hey, I'm going through this, I'm struggling. And sometimes people need to realize it may not be forever. It just may be situational. You know, there's a difference between organic anxiety, depression, mental health issues, and situational. You know, when we talk about substance abuse, it could be generational, it could be systemic. But it definitely can be situational. And it's really just about learning different avenues and making a potpourri of choices available, because not every pot has the same lid. So it's really just about giving people options of where they can go. You know, whether it's 12-step meetings, smart recovery, mental health services, maybe it's just a hotline to talk to somebody, a peer support group, a bunch of friends getting together and just, you know, meeting each other. I always tell people every week, pick up a phone, call somebody you haven't spoken to in a long time. Number one, it'll make you happier because you spoke to somebody you haven't talked to in a while. But to be on the receiving end of that phone call of somebody you haven't spoken with, just a call to say hello, that for a lot of people can be the difference of having a really good day and being in a really dark place.
Definitely, thank you for sharing that whole phone call thing, because I've been one to do that, especially during the pandemic, calling friends, and I get that, bro, because they hadn't heard from me in a long time. Well, I've spoken to people that I had worked with 10 years, well over a decade ago, and I would call them, and they would say, thank you. Just because, like, I reached out, because I know what it feels, well, when I want someone to speak to, I know what it feels like. So I try to put myself in someone else's shoe. Maybe they want to speak to someone. If they don't, they either won't answer, or they say not, or they'll say not now.
Right, and that's the other side. That's really why social media was developed was to connect people. I mean, there's been some real dark stuff about social media, which is a whole nother podcast for you guys. But the benefit of social media, whether it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Snapchat, all of these different avenues, is really to connect people that normally wouldn't be connected, and to share our lives and stay connected. And that's the beauty of what social media can provide. It also provides support groups, community groups, all different kind of resources that are there if you choose to take them and use them for the good for which they were developed.
That's a great point too. And just personally, I post on Facebook every day. I post gratitude every day. I started it over a year and a half ago, around Thanksgiving. I was going to just post for November in 2019, I guess it was. And I'm still posting on a daily basis because I saw what it did to me. It just changed the trajectory of my day. So I post a gratitude post every single day. I had so many people say to me, you don't know what that does for me. It takes me out of myself, and it gives me a different kind of perspective on my day. It lets me look and see what I'm really grateful for. So sometimes a simple act like that, we have no idea the magnitude of it and how it can affect people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And part of what I teach, whether it's the people I talk to, friends, peers, professionals who I speak with, or clients who I serve, and consumers who I work with, is every day find something you're grateful for, because there's always something to be grateful for. I'll hear people complain, oh my God, I need, my car broke down. Okay, here's a blessing. You can afford the repairs, or you have the option of taking a bus. You don't live in, rural upstate New York where the nearest bus is a mile walk and it only comes once every 4 hours. So it's about really finding the blessings amidst the darkness. And that's sometimes really hard to do, but that also can be the difference between having a really bad day, or really bad experience, or really being able to shift your direction for the day, week, or year.
Yeah, and so often people, and I do this sometimes, we define our days by a bad moment. And one thing I learned in recovery was to start my day over, and keep starting it over until I get to the end of it, and maybe it'll get better. And if I'm not having a good day, I reach out to a friend. And just talking to that friend helps.
That's why I always answer the phone when you call and go, okay, now you understand why I do that.
I know that you do. And I love that about you. And it helps to be heard. But it also is important to know that people can't always stop what they're doing. I know, like when I was in early recovery, and they'd say to call people and say, if somebody can't talk to you, try somebody else. Because we all have lives, and it doesn't mean they don't want to talk to you. It just means that they're in the middle of something that they're doing that's important. Not that you're not important, So yeah, that is very, very true. So looking ahead now, as we hopefully are coming out of this, I think we've got a longer way to go than people like to think. But what's on the schedule? How do you project the next year? Like, where do you see things changing and moving back into, like you mentioned, a hybrid, or what's the plan?
So I definitely think that there's going to be a hybrid model, because like you said, we are definitely not out of this. And when you talk about whether it's, especially treatment programs, you can't have groups of 12 or 15 people in the same room that's small, sitting shoulder to shoulder with poor ventilation if 2 people are not vaccinated. So, it's going to really change the dynamic, but you can have 4 people in the room, and you can have people on the screen from telemental health. So that's the hybrid, or the hybrid is, people who have health issues, whether handicaps or just health issues, they no longer have to worry about accessoride or traveling, bad weather, snow, rain. And there's other ways to engage in all kinds of treatment services. Because I think we're going to start opening up a little bit. I think people are tired. I think people miss that human connection, whether it's us as friends or family members. But definitely when you're seeking services, there's a very different experience when you engage face to face than just from the neck up on a screen. It's a very different engagement process in the counseling world. And I think people are going to start, and programs are starting to open up and have more face-to-face services where it's safe. I think programs and people will have to maintain safety protocols to continue flattening and keeping the curve of this pandemic flattened. Vaccinations, and the more people that are vaccinated, the more people will be able to gather. And also in the professional development world, and I'm not here to say people can do what they want, whether they want to be vaccinated or not. It's just about safety protocols. You choose not to, or your health issues preclude you from doing it. It's just about wearing a mask, washing your hands, and all those safety protocols that we've been implementing over the last 14 months. And I think professional events are going to also start to return, smaller scale, but hybrid model as well, because even us as professionals, there's something about bouncing things off your colleagues when you're sitting around a really big table and you're seeing each other versus just sitting on a screen and potentially losing signal, or what did you say? That just broke up kind of thing.
Well, you're on mute.
And that's all you kind of hear from people. So I think it's going to start a little bit of everything. It's going to return to the new normal, as everybody's calling it, whatever that's going to look like. And it's just really important for people to take a deep breath. I think everybody is overwhelmed for whatever the reason is, whether they've had a lot of death in their own lives, whether family and friends. There's been a lot of violence and a lot of relapse and recovery. Overdoses have increased, mental health issues have increased, and just life has, people have lost their jobs or people have been struggling. So you don't know what people have going on. And I always say the prettier the package, sometimes the bigger the problems that they may have, and they just hide it really well. So it's just about really having patience and kindness with everybody. And like you said, while respecting boundaries for yourself, but just having patience and kindness. I live by a saying, and it's on my social media: we are responsible for the energy that we put into the universe. So
and I quote that a lot.
We are responsible for the energy that we put into the universe. And I find that if I put a really decent energy into the universe, is it always going to come back that way? No, but it's not on me. I'm only responsible for my actions and my interactions with human beings. So I think that's how it's going to change. I think that everybody has a different level of empathy, because as professionals, we develop empathy either from a place of experience, going through it firsthand, or from just being in the industry so long and hearing so much of the same or similar situations that you become empathetic to whatever you're helping your clients go through. But because of this pandemic, all of our empathy is developed by experience. We've all been in this experience together. Everybody's been touched by it. So it's just really now being able to support each other. And I watch a lot of your podcasts, and you talk a lot about recovery, and it's not about what I can do, it's what we can do, and we can get through this together. And I think that's going to be the key, is what we can do together.
Well said. Very well said. Chevar has that look on his face like he's about to ask a question.
I always have questions. No, you said a lot of things that kind of resonate with me. I definitely love. I'm going to use your quote, if you don't mind, and put that on my social media as well.
Absolutely.
And also, like, just listening to you talk is a ray of positivity, for me at least, and hopefully for the listener and the viewer, because I'm the same person, similar to you. Like, my phone is 24 hours. Like, I tell my friends, if you need me, text me 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm probably up. or call me, and if I can talk, I can talk. If I can't, as soon as I see it, I'll respond. But my question for you is, how do people, you talked about the telehealth, like, how do people, it's like that interaction, because it's different. Like, what is that look like? How can you talk about your patients, talking about the difference of their feelings versus a telehealth or versus an in-person a session? Like, do they talk about that? Can you talk about that, or can you share your experience, rather?
Absolutely. So in person is in person.
Right.
You're able to read the full body language.
Right.
You're able to see their demeanor, and for some people, you're able to even to feel their energy that they bring into the room. With telehealth, so there's different levels of telehealth. There's individual telehealth, such as we're doing right now, is face-to-face as individual, or maybe as a group telehealth. But then there's also what people don't talk about. There are those who can't afford this, and their telehealth is via telephone, and they're not seeing anybody, and people forget about it. that not everybody can afford technology, or
Right.
some people have their own restrictions to technology. So it's different levels. And it's really about the clinician learning to use different senses, really learning to hear and to watch body language, and not only body language, but facial expressions, and learn about your client's facial expressions. You can, because especially people's eyes, they'll shift when they're sad or they're angry, or they may be more quiet than normal, or they may be more talkative than normal, and building a wall of words around them. And so it's really about being able to get to know your client on a different level using auditory skills and visual skills, and always being present, and when you're on telehealth, not picking up your phone and texting somebody or going on it. It's really about being present to the as Ronnie does that. It's really about being present. It's also about upholding times and schedules, so you make people feel important. And I know in my agency, one of the things I have as a professional, a lot of people lost their internships, mental health programs and social work programs. And that has to be probably my biggest peeve as a professional. We had an obligation to 15 interns from different schools in my agency. And we upheld that commitment, because while we were learning, it's really important to teach this next generation how to do a group on Zoom, how to enforce, ground rules, including, watching that people are on the screen and it's private, and being okay with taking and removing somebody from a group if they're not upholding the privacy of the other members, and then being able to follow up with it, or using breakout rooms. So it's really important that we just learn how to manage this, and not everybody can. Yes, there's a lot of young professionals, then there's the older generation of professionals who on a good day were never technology savvy. And now you're asking them to learn how to do HIPAA compliant telemental health, whether on a phone or Zoom, and they can barely FaceTime with their grandchildren or their families. So it's also about teaching people how to really use technology. So I think there's a lot of moving pieces. And I think that in the beginning, it was really hard, but I think a lot of programs have pivoted. And I think that programs or professionals that have been unable or unwilling to pivot, I think they're missing the boat with how we service the public, period, end of story. Because if you think about it, we had that blizzard over the winter. It used to be programs were closing early, buses shut down, people didn't want to travel. Then you have childcare issues. And now it's like, okay, great. It's snowing out. Let me take off my snow jacket, sign on, and sit in the comfort of your home. You don't have to worry about traveling, parking, or whatever it is. So there's some really great stuff, and it's just about managing it. And it's just practice. It's nothing different than when I was a brand new social worker. I read about this stuff in the book. The reality is you don't really learn about it until you're real life and applying it. It's the same thing with telehealth. We read about it, we see all these articles, but until you get into the weeds and you start to practice it, then you can learn how to master it. And I think it's really good because it's also helped us use different senses, not just what, we learn how to listen to people's change in their voice a little bit more closely, and their visual appearance and how they engage. And I think it's really strengthened some of the skills of workers as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm laughing because I can see us now sitting at our coalition meetings like this. Trying to observe what you just said. I think we do to an extent, but you made it just more evident for me. So now I know I'm going to be looking at that a little closer. But I hate this, that we're almost at the end of the time. So we have to go to our fun question. We always ask a fun question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And well, I'll let Chevar ask the questions. We always ask our guests this.
It's
You
not
probably
a
know.
scary question. It's a fun question.
I love a fun question. Go
When you were a youngster, when you were a wee person, what did you want to be when you grew up? Think about. Take a few seconds. Don't jump into it.
Oh, so I already know. When I was really young, I wanted to be a ballerina.
Oh. Okay.
Then I wanted to be a vet until I realized you'd have to give an animal a needle or like cut them. So that went out the window. But in all fairness, I'm one of the few people, I've been doing this since I was in high school. I was involved. I was a spark kid, as we talk about. I was very involved. My mom was real sick and they sent me to the spark program. So in case something should happen, I went there in the 10th grade. I started as a peer counselor in the 11th grade and I never looked back. And we talk about the spark program. I was an alumni peer helper. I started as a peer counselor. Then I did prevention work. Then I became an intervention, which is a primary counselor. And I've never looked back. So I'm blessed that I've chosen a profession since I was in high school and I've stayed with it. And yes, I've also looked back and gone, oh, I need the day off from work. Everybody has, but I've never looked back on my life and gone, I should have done this. So in all fairness, this is really what I've wanted to do. And I've been blessed to be able to do it for my entire career.
Yeah, and as long as I've known you, I mean, I remember when I first met you, and I won't say your age at that time, but I remember thinking, who the hell is this kid who's bugging me? What does she want? Why doesn't she leave me alone? We were at like an event, a spark event. And I realized that after that, oh, okay, wait a minute, this person's going to be in my life. And we've never looked back. And that was over 30 years ago. So, you know, we've been there for each other through thick and thin and beyond. And I'm so grateful for you in my life.
And right back at you. You're the biggest blessing in my life. So, Chevar, my fun question is, ballerina for a blank, vet for a blank, for a blink of a minute, but this is what I've always wanted to do. And as Ronni said, my blessings are abundant. And one of my biggest blessings is my friendships that have developed. And as Ronni said, she is one of my best friends. And we will never end our friendship. We have too much information about each other and we've shared.
That's right.
And that's the greatest gift. So it goes back to the beginning of our conversation is, how do you spread positivity? Having a friend and letting them know how much you appreciate them.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us. We hope you'll come back.
I would love to. Thank you for the invitation. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
It really is.
We like it to be fun, but you shared some great information. And, you know, if you want, we can put your contact information or QCASs in our comment section. But, you know, let me know how you want to share that and we'll make sure to share that with people. Or they can contact us and we can take it from there as well.
Absolutely. That would be great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming. Love you.
Love you. Have a great day. And really nice to meet you, Chevar, and spend some time with you. And I look forward to spending more time with you and actually meeting with you face to face.
Likewise.
Hugs. Tons of hugs waiting.
Lots of hugs. You have a great day. Be blessed. Take care.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Take care.
Okay.
That was cool.
That was very cool.
It was a ray of positivity for me, like hearing her talk. There's a lot of things that I subscribe to, a lot of things that I say in my personal life about, you know, reaching out to people, you know, being there for people, being that positive support, being, hey, miss, yo, miss, being whatever that is, you know, like being that person, like that's what I subscribe to be in my life and I subscribe to be for other people, you know, because like I've said this in the past, the reason why I stayed in the field of, you know, youth development so long is because I'm a dad. And I always said, if I do this, if I take care of these kids, the hope is that someone's doing the same for my children.
That's right.
That's why I did it. You know, that's one of the reasons, but that's the, you know, if I take care of them, you know, if I infuse positivity in these young people, if I give them, you know, different aspects of what life can be, hopefully when my children are at their schools or their programs, someone's doing the same for them. And that's all I ever wanted.
And although you didn't know to define it at that time, you were providing a pathway to prevention, you know, and it's all about prevention. All roads lead to prevention. They really do.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and just talking about positivity, I mean, it goes back to those protective factors and giving somebody some hope in life. We can all get sucked into the darkness, but if we can have just a glimmer, we can hang on to that for as long as we need to. And with that thought, I think we're at the end of our time here. But I'm going to ask people, please subscribe to our podcast. We promise to do more in the coming months, weeks, maybe not every week for a while, but we're trying to line up our guests because we want to continue to spread positivity. And just please take a moment today to find something to be grateful for, even if it's, you woke up or you had your favorite breakfast or something small. And if you can't, that's okay too. We're going to love you no matter what.
Absolutely.
So sending lots of love and light. And, again, this is the solution, because
nothing changes if we change nothing.
Change something today for the better. Talk to you soon.